In a world gone mad. That's where you're living, folks. And only one man can tell you how to escape. Heathendog's tabletop RPG fundamental.
All right. Thank you very much, Garthon. Hello, everyone. I hope I find you well. Today, we're going to be talking about part 2 of the system for Star Trek Adventures. If you haven't seen part 1, I recommend you go and watch that because it talks about momentum and threat, and that stuff is pretty darn important. And it also talks about the 2D20 system in general, so you know exactly what you're doing, because not a lot of people have played 2D20. Not a lot of people have heard of 2D20. So go check out our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, do all that stuff on there. Watch that, come back and watch this, and you'll get up until the end. You'll get all kind of good information. But there's a spoiler at the end of this segment. Stick around for it. I go nuts. Okay, first let's start off with the credits. The Modiphius Entertainment made this beautiful little gem. Came out in 2017. Main designer Nathan Dowdle. You can get it for $61.87, hardcover and PDF from DriveThruRPG. You can get the book on eBay for just under $45, or you can get on Amazon the hardbook cover for $37.86. Now, sometimes on Amazon it comes with a PDF, and sometimes it doesn't. It depends on which seller you're buying from. But hey, man, buyer beware. Go check it out and read the fine print. You too can have best of both worlds. All right, now let's talk about the system. All right, this is actually playing the game. All right, we're going to talk about movement. We're going to talk about the definition and uses of environment and zones, how to move between them, what they actually are. And then we're going to talk about combat. We're going to talk about ground combat. We're going to talk about range combat, melee combat, how combat works, combat movement, all that good stuff. Space combat, that's the surprise. And then we're going to talk about damage. We're talking about getting hurt, how to get hurt, what happens when you do get hurt, what is injury, and how many injuries do I get before I die? Well, we're going to find out. So let's get to it. First, we're going to talk about movement and zones. Zones are divisions on the map separating different distinct areas. Now, if you don't have a map, this game really requires some kind of ability to keep track of where everyone is. So if you don't have a grid map, that's fine. You get a large sheet of paper and you sketch out stuff, that's good too. All right. Now, these zones are based on natural obstacles or formations or hindrances in the terrain. For example, quicksand would be its own zone, the quicksand zone. If you're in a building, the walls of the room you're in will define the zone. Those are considered natural boundaries. If you're in a forest, you're going to have a zone that's maybe 100 feet by 100 feet, but the nearby clearing that's a quarter mile in all directions will be its own zone. The reason being is because, well, the line of sight is not hindered. It's easier to get through. So the zone is by necessity bigger. Okay. So a zone is an area that you're in. It's defined by natural barriers or obstructions or terrain. And several zones added together equal your environment, which is the entire play field that you're on. Use Legos. Mar Hawkman says we could use Legos. Yes, we could use Legos. That'd be good. All right. So we're going to talk about distance. This is important for both viewing and for combat. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different distance ratings. There's reach or contact. Reach is if you are literally within arm's reach of someone. You are distance reach. You can take them out in melee. You can get them into melee combat. You can touch attack, whatever. Contact is for space combat. If the ships are actually touching, like you're docked, that would be contact range. And then there's close range. You're in the same zone. Now remember, I defined zone earlier by you're in the same room, or you're both in the quicksand, or you're both in the same area of the forest, or you're both in a field. You're in the same zone, that's considered close range. 1 zone away, that's medium range. 2 zones away is long range, and 3 or more zones away is extreme range. Okay, this is important because it comes into play when we go into movement, which is next. Movement up to medium range is a simple action, does not take a task, which means you can perform it basically for free. So you can move one zone away for free. Now, usually this is not a problem. You just do it unless there is some kind of barrier or resistance, or you have to get over that quicksand. Then it becomes a task. All right, then that's your action because it takes that long to get over the obstacle or hindrance or terrain, whatever. Now, you can move anywhere within one zone, which means if you're close range, you can move into reach for free and use your task as an attack or a grapple or whatever. Or you can move from reach to close range or reach to medium range because reach and close are in the same zone. So you can go in between those two just fine with no problem at all. You can go from reach to close to medium. It's fine. One zone. Now, if you want to go beyond one zone in your movement, that is not free. That will take a task. You have to use the task sprint. You take your fitness plus security. All right. It is usually a difficulty 0 task, which means you don't really have to roll. It's just a task, so it takes away your action for the round. You're basically sprinting away or toward somebody. You can't do anything else. Now, if there's terrain modifiers or slippery, whatever, or natural barriers to get by, then the difficulty goes up. You have to roll and actually, roll some successes to actually clear that distance. But if you are successful in your sprint, you can move one zone plus one zone for every point of momentum you spend. So you could go from reach to extreme range if you spend 3 momentum. Does it make sense to you? No, because that's more like teleporting. That's a problem. Movement and calculating movement in this game is a little bit wrong. It's a little bit bad.
Why does security matter with how fast you can move?
Security is the end all be all of any kind of physical exertion as a skill. Fitness is your attribute of anything physical, and security is any skills you've learned, that are physical in nature. For example, security would be hand-to-hand combat. Security would be calisthenics. Security would be, it would be any kind of physical training.
So security does not mean like, hacking a computer.
No.
All right.
Not at all. No, that would be computer programming or right, in this instance,
that was my confusion with that. It's like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. Now, you can only sprint once per round, even though there are some instances where you can take more than one task per round. Like you can buy an extra task, giving the game master threat or whatever, and some other ways to do it. But you can only sprint once per round. Doesn't matter if you have more than one action you can use. Only sprint once. But it doesn't matter because you can basically teleport across the map. So who cares, right?
Well, it's cinematic movement, I guess, in that, like, kind of during a TV show, like, you'll see them running, then they're like, well, they should be able to make it that time. They're somewhere else,
Yeah, but during that time, they're getting shot. They're getting attacks of opportunity on them. They're dodging them. That doesn't happen in this game. There are no attacks of opportunity. You can basically teleport behind an enemy using this, which there's no rules against that, which is weird. I couldn't find a single rule against the book. I'm going to talk about that at the end. Now, next, we're going into an example of ground combat. First, I'm going to talk to you about what ground combat is. Basically, if you attack someone, that is a task. A task is your main action in the round. Each character, with very few exceptions, can only use one task per turn or per round, per your initiative. That's when you can use one task. Example, that would be attacking or assisting someone else in their task, stuff like that. Something that takes up a significant amount of time and you have to roll. That's a task. Now, minor actions you can do during a round, they don't require a roll. Each person gets one minor task for free. For example, movement, like I said, up to one zone away is considered a minor task. You don't have to roll, you just do it. Other minor tasks are aiming or standing guard or surveying the scene, like, being watchful, those are all free tasks. Now, if you want more than one minor task completed per round, you have to spend 1 momentum per extra minor. You get 1 minor task, I keep saying task, 1 minor action for free. Every other minor action you can buy for 1 momentum each, but there is no limit. As long as you have momentum, you can still be taking minor actions. It's fine. Just fine. Now, the reason I don't want to say task is because a task is a major action that requires a roll, and minor tasks do not. So that was why I did that. Okay, now next we go into the actual melee combat and ranged combat example. We're gonna do the melee combat first. Okay, so you're Captain Kirk. I'm the Gorn. You come up to attack me. Okay, you are the attacker. You use daring plus security to get your target number. Let's say Captain Kirk's daring is 9 and his security rating is 5. So his target number is 14. Now, it's a difficulty 1. That means to succeed in this task, he needs to get 114 or higher on his 2d20s. All right? But because it's melee combat, the other guy has a say in this. He also, me as the Gorn, also rolled daring plus security. And my successes go up against the attacker successes. You take the attacker successes and subtract mine. If there's negative successes, you don't hit. I block, or I dodge, or I weave, or I do whatever. If it's a tie, if there's 0 successes on each side, the attacker wins. So it's the attacker has an advantage in melee combat, whereas if you tie, like if Captain Kirk gets 3 successes and the Gorn gets 3 successes, it's still considered a successful attack. And that means the attacker gets to roll damage. Gets to roll his damage dice, which is D6, which is the challenge dice. And then you take the result of that against the resistance of the target. And this Gorn, say, has 3 resistance dice because he's a giant Gorn and his skin is like 3 inches thick. So he rolls that. And those 2 results are subtracted from each other to get the total damage actually received, if any is left over. Now, ranged attack is different. Ranged attack is control plus security because, you're aiming, you're not daring, you're sitting back and aiming. But the difficulty is 2, which means to succeed in this task, you need 2 d20s that are a success. Now, the reason it's harder is because the defender doesn't get to interact with this. The defender just got to get shot. But they make it even harder for ranged attack because if the person is within reach, that means if they've closed the distance on you and you try to attack them with a ranged weapon, it's +1 difficulty. Now you need 3 successes. All right. If anyone else is within reach of the person you're attacking, it's a +1 complication range. Now, I explained complication last time. Basically, if you roll a 20, normally that is considered a failure and a complication. Something bad happened. A +1 to the complication range is now the complications are 19 or 20. +2 would be 18, 19, or 20, and so on. All right. Now, there is no other distance penalty besides if the person is within reach. The person could be extreme range. There is no penalty to attack him for range. This game does not have a range attack penalty. I looked it up. I looked it up 4 times in the book. I looked it up online in the forums, and it's true. There is no range attack penalty in this game for distance. None. So, if you get 2 successes, you succeed in range attacking the target. You get to roll damage. They get to roll resistance for any armor or cover or whatever. And then if there is damage left over, then we calculate what that damage does, which is the next slide. This is damage. Any damage that passes through resistance removes stress. Stress is not like hit points. It's not like health. It's more like vitality. It's more like counter toward exhaustion. So your stress is your fitness plus your security skill added together. That is your stress total. Every damage you take takes away 1 stress. When you get to 0 stress, you get an injury. Now we're going to talk about injuries. Injuries is the real deal in this game. Injury is what can do you in. If you take 5 or more damage from a single attack, you take an injury. If your character is reduced to 0 stress, you take an injury. If you are at 0 stress and you take any damage whatsoever, you get an injury. Now, there are ways to avoid taking an injury. It's actually called avoiding an injury, but it usually gives the game master character's threat rating or threat pool, because that is a significant thing. Avoiding an injury, you have to roll, and you can avoid taking an injury, but you can only avoid an injury 1 time per scene. So that's basically it. That's what you got. You can avoid an injury once. Now, the reason you want to avoid injuries is because injuries will be the thing that kills you. All right. If you are injured, you are incapacitated. You cannot perform any tasks or minor actions for the rest of the combat until you are tended to. At least you are incapacitated. You're done. You can be easily captured. You can't do anything to stop it. You're shot. You're stabbed. Whatever. You're on the ground bleeding out. That's you. Now, if you take 2. Okay, let's start off. Any more injuries can kill you. Let's say someone beat you with a bat and you become injured and fall down to the ground. That is a non-lethal injury.
Not a very Star Trek injury.
Yeah, it's not a very Star Trek injury, but they went back in time and the Nazi had a bat, whatever. If you are down with a non-lethal injury and you take another injury of any type, you now have a lethal injury. If you have a lethal injury and take any injury of any type, you die. All right. So if you're injured, if you're shot with a disruptor beam, that is a lethal injury. You're not dead, but any other injury will kill you. Someone kicks you in the head, you die.
It kind of makes sense in its way. I can get behind it.
Yeah. You can have a non-lethal injury, and when you get another injury, the injury now becomes lethal, even if it was another non-lethal injury. For example, that bat thing. You get hit with a bat, and you go down with an injury. And that person continues to beat you with that same bat while you're on the ground injured. Now your life is in danger. Now you're going to be beaten to death. Your non-lethal injury becomes a lethal injury. Any more injuries, like he keeps beating you with that damn bat, you're gonna die from it. You're gonna die. Get your friends to help you.
Hopefully you have.
All right, now, normally next would be space combat, because I want to talk about space combat, but this is when I quit. I quit for today because the book is awful. It takes me 10 minutes to find it. Let me get it. It is so poorly written that you can't follow. I cannot recommend playing this game. This is the first time I've ever made a recommendation before I was completely done. I usually don't make recommendations.
Usually don't say don't play this game.
Yeah. I usually leave it up to you. But the book is so bad that I cannot recommend anyone buy it. I can't. Please don't buy this book. This is why. The index in the back is all but useless. Useless. Movement and zones. Those are headers for whole paragraphs, whole sections of the book. But if you look up movement or the word movement or the word zones or zone in the index, it's not there. If you want to find out how combat works, you have to look up the section called Operations and Advanced Operations. And this is where it gets stupid, because the book is written in a narrative style. The book is written as if a Starfleet Commodore is telling you the rules of the game. Garthon earlier made a really good analogy, saying this is like learning Monopoly by listening to a 4-year-old tell you the story of how he played a game of Monopoly. That's exactly how this book is written.
He's sitting down with you across the table, and then I did this, and then you roll, and there, but there's one time, and then. So yeah.
Yes, it's written like that. Technically, you could learn how to play that way, but it's really hard. That's exactly how this book is written. The narrative style sucks. This is all flash and no substance. It's got wonderful anecdotal stories in it. It really does. Flavor is everywhere, but substance is absent or obscured behind the incessant flavor of the entire thing. And another thing, the black pages. Oh my God, the black pages. I've said this before, but these black pages just piss me off to no end. These black pages are awful. Angled just the wrong way, you can't read anything.
You just get light.
All you get is a giant refraction into your eyeball and you go blind. That is awful. It is awful. And what's worse is the PDF is the exact opposite. It is a white background and black lettering, which is worse for watching it on a screen. If they had done it the other way, it would have been perfect. But no, they went again for flash instead of actually helping you with absorbing the information. Stupid. Absolutely stupid. Now, am I going to get through character generation? Seriously, I don't know. At this point, I don't know. I don't know. The book is so bad that I don't know. I mean, maybe because unlike the rest of the book, character generation is all together in the same section. Whereas for combat, for other stuff, it's in different parts of the book and the index doesn't help you navigate this. You basically have to remember where everything is. And since I haven't been playing this game for years, I don't know what's on all the pages. So yeah, I may complete character generation, but I cannot recommend anyone get this book. This book is written in such a way that to learn the system, you have to not buy the book. You have to talk to someone who already knows the system. That's the only way you're going to learn, because they'll be able to translate the book into actual English instead of narrative English. So yeah, there you go. Okay, we've gone through system. We've gone through combat, movement, and zones. We haven't gone through starship combat. I don't know if we ever will. And I don't care, because the book has pissed me off. Next time, if there is a next time, we'll be going over character generation. We'll be randomly selecting an era, randomly selecting a race, choosing traits, job, and posting, and then getting the skills and abilities all together and creating our very own Star Trek Adventures character. Ooh. Now, is there going to be time to create the secondary character? Probably not, but I will touch on that. This game does allow not only your primary character, but also a secondary character. When your primary character is busy doing other narrative duties, you can play your secondary character, which is less fleshed out, but can be just as cool.
It could be a Ferengi.
Yeah, okay, you could be a Ferengi. Usually not, but because oh no, you can't be a Ferengi because you have to be Starfleet.
Nog is a Ferengi.
Yep, you can't be Nog or Worf. You can't be Nog or Worf. Sorry. And those are the only two, non-Federation races that have been shown in the Federation. So, sorry.
My pocket Ferengi is sad.
Your pocket Ferengi is sad. That's true. All right, and that is it. I want to thank everyone joining me. What are your thoughts? I mean, what are your thoughts on the 2D20 system? And if you've read this book, if you have this book and you've read it, am I just completely off base? Am I just not? I have a brain cloud. I mean, I may have a brain cloud as well, but still, I think this book is bad, just bad. I have reviewed games that I've never played before on this channel, and I thought I did a damn good job. And half of that is due to the book being laid out properly. You can follow it. It has an index that points you to things that are important. So this book does not do that at all. It's just bad. Don't get it. All right. Well, if you like this video and you want more rants, I guess this is the only rant I've done on a tabletop RPG. So if you want more non-rant stuff, yeah, go ahead and like and share, and you can see my other videos on the YouTube channel or here in Twitch. And please subscribe to the Legion of Myth Anime Comics and Games channel. That'd be great.
And remember to be a Legionnaire.
Boom.